How important is your attitude when it comes to money? Like, no wishy-washy BS manifestation sort of chat here.
My will be done!
None of that. I'm talking about evidence-based, peer-reviewed academic research on how our attitudes towards money affect the way we approach it. Like this research that I found by Tang and Gilbert in 1995. Money attitudes are established early in childhood and remain fairly consistent throughout one's life. Look, right, there was a point in my childhood where I thought that Sean Paul was P. Diddy's son. I also remember being pretty convinced that if I bathed one of these at midnight in a hot bath, it would somehow reproduce and have little, squishy alien babies. It's been 2 decades of trying to get that thing to multiply and nothing has happened. So yeah, I must say that our views that we form as children can be a little bit off the mark sometimes. And those attitudes towards money ultimately shape how well we do in life. And that's not my words. Monetary attitudes have a significant effect on an individual's financial management skills, financial knowledge, and their welfare levels. I just found a little bit of goop from the alien on my chin. I'm going to steal a quote from the movie Remember the Titans here.
Attitude reflect leadership, Captain.
You are the captain of your own financial ship, and the attitudes about money that you hold that you developed as a child are leading you in a direction, but is it the one you want to go in? Today, I want to lay out the research of people who are much smarter than me and hopefully get you to question, why is it that I feel about money the way I do? And is there a better way? While the alien gets busy in the sink, should probably think of a name for it, but yeah, let me tell you about this rabbit hole of academic papers that I've been down recently. So I've been exploring this branch of financial psychology that you might call money beliefs or money attitudes. It's niche, but people have dedicated their whole careers to studying this. Goldberg and Lewis first described it as the self-destructive patterns and unrealistic ideologies that form individuals' attitudes about money. They were the first 2 people to question why everyone was getting busy trying to make money stick to them like glue. They're unaware that perhaps what they're truly seeking is an increase in self-respect or security or freedom or love or power. Goldberg and Lewis in that moment planted a seed, an idea that our relationship with money was not abstract or unique, it was something we could study. But it wasn't until the work of Yamuchi and Templer, sorry about butchering your name, in 1982 when things got really interesting. They created this questionnaire that had questions in it like, I purchase things because I know they will impress others, or when I buy something, I worry that I'm being ripped off. Using these responses, they presented the idea that most of us have attitudes towards wealth that fall into one of these 4 categories on screen. We'll explore these in more detail shortly, but this model that they developed has been revised and refined, tested and retested until we land in today's modern school of thought, which is presented by this guy, Dr. Bradley Kontz, and his theory of money scripts. So I'll explain it like this. So this school of thought thinks that as you come out of the womb, your brain is pretty underdeveloped. And what happens is your brain takes in the inputs of the world around it, processes that information, and tries to make judgments on the best way to act in certain situations. These beliefs or instructions on how to act are called scripts. In the same way, a script will tell an actor what to do, or a piece of code will tell a computer what to do if there's a certain thing that's happening. These scripts are described as being learned in childhood and often unconscious, passed down through the generations, and only based on a partial truth. They are powerful and they shape the way we act, and they can often lead to people having views on money that are just simply wrong, because we accept them as fact when really they're only based on a partial truth. As an example, the silent generation born between 1930 and 1945 in America were born in and around World War II and the Great Depression. Many of these children saw their parents just lose everything financially in this period. For that reason, as a whole, this generation is characterised as being cautious financially, distrusting of banks and investing in general. They're the kind of generation that keeps all their money in a safe, whereas boomers, on the other hand, were born in a time of prosperity and are far more likely to invest as a result. What we accept as fact about money really are just manifestations of early inputs we had as children. Today, I want to combine the ideas of these scripts and that of Yamuchi and Templer to show you some of the common mistakes of ways of thinking and the drawbacks that people have around this. There are loads of these money scripts, and we're just going to touch on the main ones today. But at the end, I'll show you how to identify what scripts are dominant for you. All of the papers that I've studied are linked below for you. Unfortunately, some of them are behind paywalls and it's going to cost you like 35 quid to access them, but I'll put them there anyway. Now, the one thing that you won't need to pay to access, though, is today's video sponsor, The Daily Upside. The Daily Upside is a completely free business newsletter that is emailed to your inbox every day. Here's Cobweb. Normally I fish him out for sponsored slots to make them a little bit more interesting for you. But if I'm honest, today I caught him doing unspeakable things to Rebecca in the sink.
Cobweb stuff.
We're going with the name Becky. I'm hoping that personifying the alien will promote a modern day miracle. Another miracle is the quality of the Daily Upside's journalism. I love that in 5 minutes I can read this newsletter and just have a grasp on everything I need to know in the finance market. They always discuss current topics, but the way they approach these topics is balanced and with a level of detail that I don't think you get from mainstream media. Like this article here where they cover the use of coal. We love the Daily Upside, don't we, Cobweb? It's free, it's really informative, and I find it's really easy to read as well. All you need to do to sign up is check out the link in the description, or I'll pin one in the top comment for you. You just click it, put your email in, and away you go. And if you don't like it for some reason, you can always unsubscribe at a later date if you like. Right, now back to the video, and we're going to start with our first money script. Money avoidance.
I get money, I spend money.
I once dated this girl who was a textbook case of the money avoidance script. Any conversation we would have about money would end up going, look, I just don't want to talk about money. I don't get it. I think focusing on money too much is bad. There is more to life than money, you know.
Like what?
What underpins this script of money avoidance would be described by the work in 1982 as distrust and anxiety. People who exhibit characteristics common with money avoidance tend to think that money is an evil force in the world, that it's inherently bad, or at least that the wealthy are greedy who do not deserve their money. Many people who fall into this category deep down believe that they don't really deserve money themselves either. This distrust of money leads to some very negative behaviours. Money avoiders, as the name would suggest, tend not to budget. They won't invest. In fact, they resist managing finances altogether because of their lack of trust in money as a tool that they can use to improve their lives. So it's not uncommon for them just to spend everything they have, because why save money when you don't trust it anyway? And they're often susceptible to being an enabler. What this means is they find it really hard to say no to people who ask them for money, as subconsciously they're kind of looking for ways to get rid of the money that they do have. Interestingly, mental health professionals often score highly in this category, but in general, people with this mindset tend to be younger, single, and of lower levels of education, income, and net worth. If you're sitting here now thinking, well, this applies to me, which I doubt because money avoiders probably wouldn't watch finance content. They're too busy engaging in more noble causes, like trying to get Becky the alien to perform mitosis in the bathroom sink. So if you know someone that this applies to, recommended solutions include 1. Talk about money with someone. Even if it's just once a month, just sit down and talk about cash. With education comes confidence. 2. Find examples of wealthy people who are doing good things with money. Challenge this belief that money is evil. 3. Set savings and spending goals that are easy to achieve. Go to the supermarket with a budget and just stick to it. Confirm to yourself with these little steps that you are able to control the flow of money in and out of your life. Okay, next I want to discuss the category that I fall into most of all. Money worship, or money focus they call it. Cash rules everything around me. Cream, released 1993 by Wu-Tang Clan, 5 years after I was born. But this iconic phrase from this hip-hop song has summed up most of my life as a money-focused individual perfectly. Money-focused behaviours centre around the idea that more money will solve your problems. You don't really care about possessions as such. You just think money and the consumption of it will reduce the problems you have in your life. You clearly need to listen to Biggie Smalls instead of Wu-Tang Clan. But the problem with money worship is there's this core conflicting belief as well that you can never have enough money. These money-focused individuals attempt to derive satisfaction from obtaining and using money, but they never feel truly satisfied as they're always chasing a never-ending goal. This often leads to workaholism or overworking, because basically they say, well, more money will make me happy, so the harder I work, the more money I can have, and that means I'll be happier, which means they often neglect relationships in their life. Pretty deep. I think the saddest thing about this as a dominant script, though, is that money worshippers are often more likely to be stuck in revolving credit card debt. As they equate money to happiness, they often spend compulsively, buying things to make them feel happy short term. Buyer's remorse is a really common feeling amongst this group of people. A good exercise if you believe that money will solve your problems is to go, okay, well, what actually are my problems? What are the things in my life now that if I improve them or change them, would improve my quality of life or my view of my own happiness. And then sit there and honestly go, well, would money actually solve these problems? You'll probably find it won't. But let's say it did. If you can then say, well, this is the problem, this is how money will fix it, spending money on anything else other than things that will fix that problem is pointless. And that should stop the compulsive spending on stuff you don't need. Okay, now let's look at money status.
Not about money, it's about sending a message.
Now, on face value, this is similar to a money-focused individual. But the key difference is, someone who's money-focused or a worshipper, they're external in their views. The answer to my problems is over there. A money status person is more internal in how they think about things. They seek reassurance for their own insecurities through the purchase of items they believe exhibit wealth. They're often competitive and then compare their wealth to those around them. Yamuchi and Templer would say that they have characteristics of power and prestige. The phrase, your net worth equals your self-worth, might apply here. And normally people with this attitude have grown up in a poorer setting and at some point have felt judged for it. Say they went to school with cheap trainers on, while all the other kids had the newest pair, and they felt different as a result. Now they buy luxury goods to confirm their self-worth to themselves. Unsurprisingly, it's often the case that people in this category overspend, but they're also more likely to hide their expenditure from their partner or loved ones because they want to exhibit an outward impression of doing well financially, and the numbers tell the truth. I just want to say, not everyone buys luxury goods or nice things because of deep-seated childhood trauma. But let's say you're sitting here right now and you think, I have a bit of this tendency to, buy expensive things to make myself look richer than I maybe am. Answer me this question. The last time you saw a really expensive car, a Ferrari, a Lambo, whatever, can you remember what the driver looked like? Or did you instead imagine yourself with the car and imagine how many people would then think you are cool if you were driving it? Our view that the world is looking at us and judging us based on these outward displays of wealth is flawed. People are far too concerned about themselves to be thinking about you. Build actual wealth, not faux display wealth that leaves you struggling financially behind the scenes in an attempt to impress people who don't even care anyway. Older people are much better at this than the younger generations, who seem to place a higher importance on these displays of wealth while we're young. You need to build real wealth, and you do that with the last category, money vigilance. This is probably the most positive of the traits. People here are financially alert and concerned about their financial welfare. They believe saving for their future is important, and they're less likely to buy things on credit. The work from 1982 would say that the retention and security features are dominant traits here. As a result, they tend to be higher paid, have higher net worths, but are often anxious about their financial positions. This anxiousness can stop them from actually enjoying the security they've built up through their habits. Dustin Hoffman once said, suddenly you have money, and then you start worrying where it's going. Am I doing the right things with it? God, there's no right answer, is there? All of them seem cursed. So is that it? We're assigned a money script at a young age, and for the rest of our life, we're doomed to the pitfalls of that way of thinking. After all, the science said, money attitudes are established early in childhood and remain fairly consistent throughout one's life. I disagree. I graduated from university and I was clearly a massive money worshipper who believed getting more money was the only thing that was worth doing with my time. In keeping with this stereotype of overspending on revolving credit card debt, and as a nod to the fact that I was probably a little bit money status sprinkled in there as well, I bought a £1,000 Hugo Boss suit to wear to a job that was paying me 15 grand a year before tax. Solid financial decision, that. Fast forward 18 months, I was unemployed and just up to my eyeballs in debt, and really quite desperate financially. It then took me years to kind of climb out of that hole. And the worst thing was the realization that all I wanted was to be rich, and I, due to my own fault, had achieved the exact opposite. That then had quite an effect on me. It shifted me into more of a money vigilant kind of individual, where I was obsessed with saving. I was working 2 jobs, trying to catch back up, etc. Almost went too far the other way then and didn't enjoy my life. After doing this research, I now know I am a combination of a money worshipper and a money vigilant. And if I'm not careful, I have the tendency to overwork and feel guilty about doing anything that doesn't involve me earning money. Now that sounds bad, doesn't it? But I'm okay with it because I'm aware of it now and I can put things into plan to manage it. Now, clearly getting yourself into a complete financial mess, while effective, isn't really the best way to learn these sorts of lessons, is it? So, below is a link to the test that will tell you what buckets you fall into. This is a clinically tested evaluation, and while it won't be able to accurately describe your full relationship with money, it'll at least give you a place to start. Now, there are loads of money scripts. I've only really touched on the 4 key ones today and some of the negative aspects of those beliefs. But let's be clear, plenty of us will have positive internal thought processes when it comes to money, so I don't want to make it out like, we're all doomed here. I've linked an article below that focuses on some of the other negative ones if you want to go deeper into this topic. But today I just want to shine a light on this research, as I honestly think that behavioural finance topics like this are more important than all this analysis of politics and macro trends, or which is the best index fund to buy this week, and all those other topics that we often discuss here on the channel. But for some reason, there's still this stigma here that you can't sit there and go, I have an issue with money and I don't know what to do. So I'll lead the charge and say that I've had issues with money in the past, and taking this test and getting a label or a name for some of those issues has just been massively reassuring. And it's allowed me to forgive myself for being a mess financially at one point in my life. Isn't it funny how the simple act of just labeling something, of giving it a name, can change everything? No, Becky, you actually did it. We're going to have to name your mate now, aren't we? I mean, there can only really be one thing.
Jody and Rebecca.